Today is Monday, October 24th, and this is the ADM Investor Services Weekly Market Kickoff. Please note that the views and opinions expressed here today are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. Today's guests are Steve Freed, ADMIS Vice President of Grain Research, and Alan Bush, ADMIS Senior Financial Economist. Starting with the grains today, Steve, there continues to be a lot of discussion about a U.S. recession and whether or not the U.S. will have a soft landing or not. How would a recession impact grain demand and prices?
I think three things. Number one, we're seeing a slowdown in U.S. exports, and I think that we're also seeing funds moving out of the grains back into the equities because of the fear of the recession. And then finally, I think that there will be some contraction domestically with the recession and lower disposable income, worried about food demand, maybe even fuel demand. And so this all this talk of recession is negative to grain demand and negative to prices.
See, what's the latest on world weather and the potential for a record South American crop 2023?
Well, slowly, La Nina is going to go away. December, it'll probably be gone. And so what we'll see is a kind of a flip-flop of weather patterns in which the southern part of the U.S. will see more rain, which includes the hard red winter wheat areas. Argentina's dry right now. They'll start getting some rains. Brazil weather is favorable. Most of Europe will see normal weather. So people are already plugging in above trend yields for 2023 corn, soybeans, and maybe even wheat, which is also negative to prices.
Jumping over to Alan for a second. Alan, what's your outlook for the U.S. dollar?
Okay, well, the dollar has very much underperformed in the last 3 weeks or so. This after making 20-year highs prior. So the fact that the dollar has not performed that well, even though we have had a lot of inflation news that would suggest that the dollar should do better, that would suggest the dollar has topped out for now. One exception, though, would be against the Japanese yen. The Bank of Japan still has their very accommodative policies. In fact, the Bank of Japan tried to support the yen on Friday and also again today with really limited success. So the rule of thumb on intervention is when there is intervention with no change in policy, that would suggest that that intervention should be faded. So the dollar, though, I believe is topped against most currencies. I think it will continue to gain against the Japanese yen.
Steve, flipping back here, talking about the U.S. dollar, in the event that Alan, of course, thinks that the dollar may have topped out in here, but in the event that the dollar continues to move higher, what type of impact will it have on grain demand and prices?
I think that the higher dollar is negative to the grains, and I think that it will reduce our exports of the grains as long as there's competition from the Black Sea for corn and wheat, and as long as there's competition for corn and soybeans out of South America. So I think that if the dollar was to trade higher, it would be negative to the grains. And, you know, when you look at the dollar back in 2010 and 11, it was at 75, and then it kind of launched from 90 in 2021, and it's probably completed a cycle up at 115. It's overbought, but I think people still think there's a chance that long term it might be the best currency of all the currencies, especially like Europe and the euro dollar, and that would be negative to grain demand and grain prices.
Alan, there continues to be a lot of attention on the tone of comments from the Federal Reserve officials. Has there been a change in tone?
Yes, there has. There were a few hints about a week ago that the Fed may be a bit less hawkish, but that really ramped up. Even on Friday, we had Mary Daly of the San Francisco Fed hinting that there are risks to over-tightening. Some other Fed officials indicating basically the same. So that definitely has had an impact, even on what the financial futures markets are indicating going forward as far as Fed policy. Right now, it looks like there's a smaller probability of a 75 basis point hike at the November 2nd meeting, around 89%, and the rest at 50 points. But so the Fed is closer to pivoting on their policy, and that has very much dominated the financial markets. I think that's one reason why the stock index futures have performed well in recent days, while the dollar maybe has underperformed a bit. So yes, the Fed is closer to pivoting, and Fed officials' comments are suggesting just that.
Alan, final question. What economic reports will be impacting the markets this week?
Okay, well, tomorrow we'll have October consumer confidence. That's guessed at 106. New home sales on Wednesday guessed at 585,000. And then third quarter GDP on Thursday, and that is anticipated to be up 2.3%.
Thank you both. Remember, the views and opinions expressed today on this video are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. If you'd like more information about our brokerage services, would like to speak to one of our experts about managing your risks, or would like to open a trading account, please visit www.admis.com.